Ever since 1948, when the Kinsey Report violently shattered the long-established sexual hypocrisy of America, revealing the true facts about human sexuality, the United States began to radically change. In 1953, a young ad man called Hugh Hefner published the first ever issue of Playboy with a nude Marilyn Monroe as the centerfold, a magazine that radically pulled sex out from the dark annals of one's closed bedroom door to the public eye of the newsstand, and images of naked women were for the first time ever legally published and sent through the mail to people's homes. Then came the explosion of rock and roll.
Good golly, Miss Molly, sure like the bone.
Artists like Little Richard, Chuck Berry, and Elvis Presley brought about a new kind of music that was all about being sexual and filled with sexual innuendo. This music led to kids becoming free with their bodies and dancing to express themselves, as well as copying Elvis's infamous, at the time, inappropriate gyrating. Rock and roll music brought another crucial change to American society. It united white kids with black kids. Certain rock and roll concerts saw the mixing of races, and the white kids were learning from the African Americans how to dance. Then came the 1960s. This decade was responsible for bringing about perhaps the biggest social change in American history. In 1962, the birth control pill was introduced, which completely changed the ideas about sex in American society and essentially radically pushed forward the sexual revolution.
Do you think the sexual revolution has gone too far? It certainly has.
An explosion of revolutions came about, particularly from the youth and students, of counterculture, the sexual revolution, the anti-war movement, the civil rights movement, the gay rights movement, and second-wave feminism. In universities, a Students for Democratic Society was established and went on demonstrations for liberal, radical, as well as Marxist political change. Students were fighting for such changes as freedom of speech and for the legalization of co-ed living. The counterculture revolutions brought about drugs, rock, and hippies, who were basically kids fighting against everything that they were ever taught by American society. By the late 60s, the sexual revolution resulted in a whole dominion of what was previously considered smut, such as strip clubs, nude shows, and pornography came into storefronts and essentially became mainstream. This phenomenal social change was initially ignored by Hollywood. Many people were now openly having love-ins and gay experiences. Hollywood was still showing Doris Day and Rock Hudson sleeping in separate beds. By the late 60s, Hollywood understood that their now 3-decade-long production code was no longer relevant to the rapidly changing times in America, and so in 1967, the code was dropped, and Jack Valenti, the new head of the Motion Picture Association of America, brought about a rating system that did no longer censor certain previously considered taboos, but simply stuck a rating letter to the front of every film in order to guide parents what movies are appropriate for children and which are not. In short, Hollywood censorship changed like this.
That, I suppose, makes everything quite all right.
The walls of Jericho will protect you from the big bad wolf.
He put her right where she could see the water.
He just left here less than half an hour ago. He went that way toward those mountains.
Are you all right? Sit down here.
Don't worry about me. Go on after him. I gotta get me some money.
Spacecraft to Earth Control. I read you.
All right, Bub, your fucking head is coming right off.
Did you ever make it with a black chick before?
You got my cherry.
The year 1970 was the pinnacle year of the new Hollywood. During this particular year in American cinema, quoting Quentin Tarantino, in 1970, the new Hollywood became the Hollywood, and anything that even smelt of old Hollywood was dead on arrival. There are a few pictures that perfectly reflect the completely turned out new American society. Some of these pictures are Hal Ashby's The Landlord, a perfect and powerful anti-segregation statement. Bob and Carol and Ted and Alice, The Magic Garden of Stanley's Sweetheart, and Guess What We Learned in School Today. 3 pictures that reflect America's sexual revolution. Easy Rider, which reflected the hippie movement. MASH, which was a strong satirical statement against the Vietnam War. Myra Breckinridge, although far from a great film, it did in fact have a nice observation about the changed Hollywood industry. The semi-documentary Medium Cool, which photographed the actual violence that erupted around the 1968 Democratic National Convention in Chicago. Midnight Cowboy, which perfectly captures New York City in the late 1960s, particularly its decadence. Woodstock, which photographed the concert which was the boiling point of the counterculture revolution. And the masterful Getting Straight, a film that exquisitely captured the student on-campus revolutions of the time. Now, how does this all connect to Brian De Palma? Well, the unknown director at the time ended up becoming one of the most influential and significant filmmaking voices to represent the counterculture movement of the 1960s, with his 2 masterpieces, Greetings and Hi Mom, 2 of some of the most important pictures of the director's career. Having only the unreleased feature The Wedding Party and Murder a la Mode, which nobody saw, the director bravely went on to make his own counterculture statement, 1968's Greetings, De Palma's first success. Although initially being destroyed by a review in Time magazine, after a man wrote a reply to this review in the Sunday Times titled, "Was that a way to greet greetings?" And then Pauline Kael, one of the most important film critics of the time, published a positive review for the picture in The New Yorker, and that's how Greetings became a hit. The picture went on to win the Silver Bear at the 19th Berlin Film Festival. Why? Because it is a masterpiece. As Roger Ebert cleverly put it, a film that consists of a series of Laurel and Hardy type episodes which geniusly mock as well as explore the then prevalent counterculture issues such as the Vietnam War, sexual perversion, the prevalence of smut, America's politics, as well as the Kennedy assassination. All of these segments are brilliantly carried by Robert De Niro, Garrett Graham, and Jonathan Warden, as well as a hilarious, unforgettable scene starring Alan Garfield. Inspired by Jean-Luc Godard's pictures, such as Weekend or Les Chinoises in particular, Greetings is a brilliant satire on America in the late 60s. The film is witty and hilarious, but also profound, 3 qualities that make it a masterpiece. Not only was Greetings influenced by, and a satire of, the social revolutions and politics of the time, but also by De Palma's own experiences. The scenes of Graham, De Niro, and Warden discussing of ways of getting out of being drafted by pretending to be gay, fascist, or communist, and making yourself an allergetic, are based on what the director himself tried and succeeded in doing in order to not be drafted in the Vietnam War. Greetings is in part a personal piece of filmmaking. The picture is an anti-establishment counterculture statement, and for audiences watching it today, it has become a time capsule of the late 60s. The geniusness of De Palma's creation does not end there, as in 1970 he made the sort of sequel to Greetings, Hi Mom. This film was a much more relentless and ferocious counterculture statement, particularly on the civil rights movement. Hi Mom has an unforgettable scene of an environmental theater piece created by African Americans called Be Black Baby. This interactive play is intended for whites only, and is an experience of what it is like to be black in America at the time. The white audiences get black-faced, and then insulted, physically beaten, and almost raped. Then this show of sorts ends, and the whites are kindly escorted out of the doors, and the blacks then thank them for experiencing this play. Brian De Palma's merciless satire on the racial issue in America. Hi Mom is also absolutely hilarious. It is largely about De Niro's character John Rubin from Greetings, continuing to develop his voyeuristic fantasies into a career, and ends up making a voyeur porno film for his employee, Joe Banner, played by Alan Garfield, who basically reprises his role from Greetings. De Niro peeps into the window of Jennifer Salt's apartment, with whom he then tries to start a relationship with in order to ultimately film a little peep show porno of him having sex with her. An absolutely hilarious segment. Perhaps this peeping theme, both in Greetings and in Hi Mom, is a satire on the long-running closed-off view on sex in American society. But whatever these scenes mean, they are absolutely hilarious, and the kind of comedy you don't see in cinema often. Greetings and Hi Mom, Brian De Palma's two masterpiece satirical pictures about America in the late 1960s. These are must-see pictures for De Palma fans, comedy lovers, and those interested in history or in new Hollywood cinema. Thanks for watching this documentary on De Palma's forgotten films. Look out for part 4 coming next Friday. Can you guess what film I'll be talking about next?